Welcome, Jim Miller.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
Yeah, dude. So you was this? I was just on your Instagram watching you singing, and
Hmm.
running and like walking in the rain. Or were you out for a
Yeah.
jog?
I was locking the animals up. Yeah, so
Okay.
I got to go get wet because it poured last night. We had a decent amount of like we have a little stream that runs through the property, and it overflowed pretty freaking good. Uh, so yeah, it was of course, the lightning showed up as I went out there too. So it was
S-
fun.
One of the things I enjoy about your Instagram is your love for karaoke.
Yeah, yeah. The music just runs through me sometimes.
It's so fantastic, man. I love the yeah, well, obviously you're a fearless dude, you're a fighter, which we'll get into, but you got a great sense of humor. You're a fun guy to follow. It's like the
Thank you.
social media is so plugged up with so much seriousness all the time. It's nice to have a little bit of light humor.
Yeah, I try not to take myself too seriously. It and it's like, I mean, I not like branding myself like a lot of my peers. I've definitely left a decent amount of money on the table, but yeah, I'm just not really interested in like being fake with it. So yeah, and I don't really care if people think that I'm a bad singer because I know that I am. So
It's
I
all
just cut
subjective,
loose.
man. It's all subjective. One of the things I've learned about in the music industry is a lot. I think most people are bad singers, but that's why they have autotune.
That's right. That's right. With autotune, I'd be a rock star.
Oh, we could make you sound so good, man. You should come down to Nashville. We'll get you in the studio and you'll sound. That was the thing that when I went down there the first time to sing, I was so nervous in the studio. You got all these like professional musicians staring at you and critiquing you, and you know in their head they're like, "Dude, this guy sucks." And uh, but my producer and my friend Zach Swan, he's like, "Dude, don't worry, we're gonna make you sound great."
Yeah.
That's what technology is for. I mean,
Nice.
everybody uses it. So let's jump right into what I have so many things I want to talk to you about today. You are a very world renowned fighter, obviously, but you're also diving into the world of being an author.
Hmm.
I think you have a family.
Yep.
But I want to start a little further back than that. Were you a wrestler in high school?
Yes. Yeah. I grew up wrestling. Some of my earliest memories are watching one of my uncles wrestle. He wrestled for Lehigh. Well, two of them wrestled for Lehigh. One was done before I was born, but
And for those who don't know, Lehigh probably has one of the best programs in the country, right?
uh, they did. They've always had a pretty good program. Yeah, and my uh the other one, my uncle Mike, was a two-time national champ and two-time. Sorry about that. My alarm to meet you on Zoom
No
just went
worries,
off.
man. No worries.
uh,
We're early.
yeah. Um, and yeah, he was a two-time national champ, two-time fourth for Lehigh. So he was a very very good wrestler. And then his younger brother Jim also wrestled for Lehigh. So it was in my blood. Uh, so like kind of as soon as I could walk, I was wrestling. I've two older brothers, and they were doing it, and so at 3 or 4 years old, I was on the mats, uh, just kind of running around while they were at practice. My dad was helping out coach, so
And this is in Pennsylvania?
no, this is in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
And
kind of
that
grew
New
up with it.
Jersey, kind of that area, I mean, isn't that area known for having a bunch of good wrestlers come out of there?
Yeah, you know what? There's always this battle between Pennsylvania and New Jersey,
Yeah.
like who's got the better, wrestlers. But I mean, when you look at the guys that get into the national finals, it's somewhat even. Sometimes PA edges out a little bit, but when you look at the Olympics, uh, New Jersey is always on the list of like home states of guys making the Olympics. So
Why is that? Like what
it who knows it's probably all the heavy metals in our water. Like it, I don't know. It's it just we produce a lot of good wrestlers out of the state, and always have.
Do you think it probably has something to do with the youth programs are probably obviously really strong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's for a long time in New Jersey.
Hey Jim, give
Yes.
me 1 second.
Sure.
I forgot I left my dog's gonna bark and I gotta get him out of there.
Okay.
1 sec, sorry.
No problem.
Sorry about that. My dog was
Don't
like,
worry about it.
yeah. So, anyways, New Jersey. The thing I've noticed about I wasn't a wrestler. It's my number one regret from my high school days. My little brother was though, and I loved watching wrestling. And it seems like the best wrestlers always come from a place that had a good youth, like a strong youth program for wrestling.
Yeah, and New Jersey, we've been able to like there are a lot of states where you can't start. They don't really have programs until about 5th grade or 8th grade, stuff like that. So we've always had the opportunity to start a lot younger, and it does end up translating later on.
Yeah, yeah. So you did at what age did you start competing?
I was probably 4 or 5 when I started 4 when I had my first actual matches. And I wrestled through elementary school into high school, and then a year in college as well. So
Were you always really good at it naturally?
um I was good at it. I wasn't really good at it. There are definitely levels to it. I was a late bloomer physically and I think technically in wrestling. So I got better once I was done and wrestling for MMA. I feel like I got a lot better. But I was I always did well. But there was always that definitely a very clear tier above me, of the guys that were placing in states and winning states.
Did you win state?
No, I did not. And I did not.
And then where did you wrestle in college?
I wrestled at Virginia Tech.
Oh, okay. Well, can't be easy to get in the wrestling program at Virginia Tech. You couldn't have been that.
Yeah, it was I ended up going there for engineering, and then just missing it too much. And then I walked on to the wrestling team pretty late, right before the season started. And a few weeks later, I was starting for them. So it was kind of a trip. And I ended up wrestling in a weight class that I shouldn't have been wrestling at. I wrestled at 141 pounds. And I graduated high school or my senior year of high school. I wrestled at 140s. And I had, like I said, I was a late bloomer physically. So I had grown in that time period. So it was a mess to make 141s. So it was not easy. It was not easy at all.
How much did you have to cut?
I mean, I was already lean, like 6-pack and stuff like that at 150 pounds, 152 pounds, something like that. So it wasn't a ton of weight, but my diet kind of sucked as a kid, and I didn't eat the best food. And then I was in college. So then if I had opportunities to, do a little drinking, I did some drinking.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but
the college is for.
Yeah. But yeah, it was super tough. When I would make weight, it was I was pretty gaunt.
Were you using the what do they call those things? Sweatsuit, not sweatsuits. My brother used to run around in garbage bags. Were you doing that type of stuff?
Yeah. So technically, that stuff is illegal in the NCAA. It may or may not have happened. Yeah. Same with saunas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
may or may not have happened. Virginia Tech at the time had a, I don't know if they still have it, but they had a sauna in the wrestling room that we weren't supposed to use to cut weight. So we
Really?
never, yeah.
You- huh.
So it's
I would think. I mean, I get the garbage bag thing. That's really dangerous. But
yeah,
saunas actually also have a lot of health benefits. So,
they do, yeah.
but I guess if you're trying to dehydrate yourself with the sauna, that's not the greatest thing to do.
Yeah, it's not. They have they have hydration tests, and they had implemented this a few years prior to when I was wrestling. But when I walked on that late, I had missed the official like session where they were doing the hydration tests. So I just had to walk down to the trainer's office with a cup of my coach's pee and weighing at 100, 141 pounds. And there is no way that like legitimately I would have been able to do it. Yeah, it was
because you were probably walking around at 165 or 160.
Pushing it. Yeah. Pushing 160. So.
And then you said you got better when you started training MMA.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start actually training MMA?
In May of 2005 was the first time. Yeah.
Give me some context. Is that after college?
Yeah. So I wrestled that freshman year at Virginia Tech. And then I was kind of like, I left the engineering program because I was like, this is just, it's a little too brainy for me. And I was so focused on wrestling that my grades ended up suffering too. And so I transferred into what's essentially like their like pre-med type stuff. So it was like athletic trainer and stuff like that. But I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I ended up taking a little time off of school to figure that out. And during that time, I was working for my father, who's a residential framer. And my brother was working for him as well. And we would watch every UFC or Pride event that would come on. And
at that time, where like that era was like, that was post Hoist Gracie era, right? That was like,
yeah.
Okay. I was probably watching it about the same time.
So like, I think was it my senior year or junior year of high school is when I think Randy Couture won the title. It was like 01 or 02. And so it was like, it was kind of just before like the Randy and Chuck Liddell, matchups and stuff like that. So it was we were watching all the cards and just kind of fell in love with it. And then we'd be goofing off at work or whatever we were doing. If we were just sitting around, we'd start beating the shit out of each other. And just like trying stuff out and choking each other and arm barring each other. And finally made the commitment one day to go into a gym. I mean, at that time there were barely any jiu-jitsu gyms in like Northwestern New Jersey. And the closest place with an MMA team was about 35 minutes away, 40 minutes away. So knowing that we wanted to fight, so that's where we ended up going. And we walked in that first day and told our first coach, like, hey, we want to fight, and he's like, well, give me like 2 or 3 years, and we'll see, because we didn't have any striking training at the time either. And it was 6 months basically to the day that we walked from walking into the gym to walking into the ring for our first MMA fight. So it's like, I mean, we trained that first day. We're both banged up. Took a couple days off. Coach probably thought we weren't going to come back, and then it was 6 days a week for a few years there.
Did you have any boxing experience or any other prior fighting experience? I mean, were you a fighter?
No, I got into one fight when I was in college. Just stupid kids being stupid. Well,
so that's crazy then that you made the decision that you actually, because I don't know, a lot of your peers were they fighters before they were actually professional fighters, or is that pretty common?
I think it is pretty common. Like
Huh.
there's a very um there's a big variety of athletes in MMA. And everybody's upbringing is different. But yeah, like it was wrestling. That's all. That's all. Really, all it was. There was
But
no fighting or anything.
arguably the most important skill in MMA.
Definitely one of them. Yeah, yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think it's like let me give you a little context, Jim. I watched, like, in the Hoist Gracie days, I used to go rent those VHS at Blockbuster, but then I quit, and I did it a little for fun or whatever, and I did some karate and all this stuff. But I was always interested in martial arts and wrestling and stuff. The first Rogan invited me and a friend of mine down to the UFC in July of 2017, and I watched you fight Anthony Pettis, I think it was.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think I followed you after that night because you came out to a song. What was that song? Oh,
Bad Wind Rising.
yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody else was coming out to like rap and whatever. And I like all genres of music, but I'm like, dude, that guy is cool, man. And and I think you lost that fight, but like you were just tougher than shit. I'm like, dude, that was impressive. But anyways, so then I became obsessed with UFC. So now I watch everything, and I'm like, but I'm still like, there's so much history and stuff to learn, and I don't know all the dynamics and stuff. So forgive my ignorance on some of the questions. But just to decide, you were a wrestler, you were a good wrestler. Like you said, you may not been in the great category, like a national champion at a D1 school or anything, but you were a good wrestler, so you had the foundation. And then you're like, I want to learn jujitsu. What about like, Muay Thai and boxing or what, like all the striking?
Well, that's a funny one. So, so the place that I was training at, that first place, it was a little tiny, like studio, the back of this strip mall called Planet Jiu-Jitsu. They had a jiu-jitsu program, like no-gi, jiu-jitsu, and then they had cardio kickboxing. So, yeah. So for the first like year or so, year and a half, my striking training was cardio kickboxing class.
Love it, man.
Yeah, it's actually where I met my wife.
No way.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So that got you somewhat like base level prepared. How did you like what was your trail to the UFC?
So I had about I had 6 fights in a year and a day.
Just like local fights?
Yeah, so these were all in New Jersey.
Yeah.
They were actually down in South Jersey, mostly in Atlantic City. And
these are just fights. I really don't know. These are just fights you can just sign up for. Is there any qualification? Is there like how do they know anything about you? Or can you just sign up?
Back in that day, it was there was nothing besides pro in New Jersey. So there was no like qualifications or anything like that. There's no criteria you needed to meet in order to fight. Nowadays they have amateur and then they actually have pro amateurs. So it's like, you get 3 fights at amateur, and if you do well, you can go to pro am and again then up to professional. And depending on your background too, with a Division I background, I probably would have been able to go pro immediately. But so I had those 6 fights, and right before that 6th one, who was actually against Frankie Edgar, the gym closed down. So like it was a really shitty training camp, but we had a great fight. Went back and forth for a bit there, and he ended up beating me by decision. But then I was kind of like in limbo, so we ended up finding a school right down the road, actually, from that first one, that Jamie Cruz was teaching the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program. And Jamie was the highest ranking Jiu-Jitsu black belt like in the area. So it was like, all right, we're going to learn from Jamie and get our jiu-jitsu games better. And Jamie was teaching at AMA Fight Club. So we ended up joining that team, and kind of like they barely had a fight team. So it kind of got built like around us when we moved there. You know, and they had a Muay Thai program, so we were still working, and so it was, you know, go to work, bang nails during the day, and then train at night and get in whatever we could. And so it was, you know, a jiu-jitsu class and a Muay Thai class at night. And yeah, I had a few more fights.
Did you get in any of those fights? Did you get your ass kicked?
No. You know, Frankie kind of kicked my ass a little bit. I kicked his ass a little bit. He bloodied my eye up pretty good. I actually kicked a piece of his ear out.
Ouch.
Yeah, he had a cauliflower ear, and I kicked it, and the calcified blood ripped out of his ear and like shot across the cage. But yeah, that was my only loss, you know, on the local circuit. So I was 11-1 when the UFC came calling, and that was like end of the summer of 2008, and I made my debut in October 2008.
Who was your first fight?
This guy named David Barron. He was coming off of a huge win at 170 pounds, and was ranked within the top 5 at welterweight in the world. Yeah, it was a tough, strong dude. I was able to.
But he had to come down to fight you, right?
Yeah. Most of his fights were at 170s. So he did come down, and yeah, I was able to rear naked choke him in the third round.
Cool. Nice, man. And so over the course of your career, you fought, what was it, like 35 fights, right? Something like
that. I have 39 UFC fights.
39 UFC fights.
Yep.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah, it's the
and you're still going strong.
Yeah, trying. Yeah,
it's literally a record, right?
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Well, I mean, you know, so I set the goal to get to 40, so that'll be the next one. Looking to fight in July, and I kind of threw it out there that I would like to fight at UFC 300, which is going to be another about like 2.5 years. So then I'll be the only guy that's fought on 100, 200, and 300, which would be pretty awesome. And to be, you know, to get a win on 300, then I'd be, you know, the only guy to win on all 3 of those. So that's kind of the goal right now. And, you know, and like I feel like I can pace myself out if I need to get there, because I'm definitely not 26 anymore. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm you know, you have to adapt the way you train as you get older, and dealing with just the same BS that everybody deals with. You sneeze and you throw your back out type stuff. You know, like everybody's done it. You hit like 35, and it's like,
oh yeah. I rolled out of bed one day, not even that fast, and I literally couldn't get up off the floor.
Yeah, it's different. You gotta adapt to it. So
yeah,
you know, I feel like I'm getting the hang of it, and I think I'll be able to make it.
Who's the toughest fight you've ever had?
I mean, there have been a few tough ones. I'd say like the toughest fighter would have to be probably Dustin Porrier. You know, I started a little late in the fight throwing the calf kicks on him, but I chewed him up pretty good, and I don't think there are a lot of fighters that still would have been standing at the end of that fight. I mean, the fight ended on the ground, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, he his calf was pretty banged up after that one, and I think that
was that a decision. I didn't watch that one. How did it end?
He ended up beating me by decision.
Well, that's impressive.
I feel like had I started throwing those calf kicks in the first round, I don't know if he would have been able to make it all the way through. But you know, whatever, you can't go back in time. So, but yeah, no, he's a super tough dude. Yeah.
Who else?
Um, I mean, Frankie's tough as hell. You know, Anthony Pettis is super tough. There are lots like you don't get to this point and this level of MMA without being a little tough. You know, it's a the thing is that's never the adjective you want to describe you. You know, like rather be called like good than tough,
Right.
because tough means you took a beating once or twice.
Good point. Good point. Uh, where did your mental toughness come from? Your upbringing? Because I'm assuming you're mentally tough because you can't do that without being mentally tough. I mean, you got to be physically tough too. I think I talked to you one time on the phone, and I asked you like, we were talking about you said getting kicked in the ribs hurts so bad or something. And you're like, but honestly, like when you're out there and there's so much adrenaline and stuff, yeah, it hurts. But you said, I think what you told me is I've stubbed my toe and hurt worse before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a frame of mind, you know. Like when you're in a fight, the way that I look at it is that it's gonna hurt either way. I mean, sometimes punching people hurts your hand, so you know, and definitely kicking someone can hurt. So you just look at it like it's gonna be 15 minutes of pain, and that's about it. So you kind of just you turn your mind off to it. Where yeah, if I stub my toe in the middle of the night, it's gonna hurt like hell, you know, and probably affect me more than something that would hurt, you know, that should hurt worse in a fight. But since you're in that frame of mind, you just kind of don't let it bother you.
But where was your upbringing kind of I guess tough in a healthy way, like the way your
Yeah.
parents raised you?
Yeah. I mean, like I had a great upbringing. You know, I had nothing but love and support. I did have two older brothers that would, you know, we would always do physical stuff, and being the small one, you know, I would get roughed up anytime we played kill the man with the ball, or you know, whatever we were doing. Um, so I kind of got used to being bounced around a little bit. Uh, and yeah, we were always doing crazy stuff as kids. So like, uh, I just kind of developed a little bit of resilience, I guess. You know, so like when it comes to competition, I always just I kind of embraced the being uncomfortable with it, like getting in those spots that make you uncomfortable, and like pushing your conditioning or whatever it is. So it's that pain that can be associated with those types of things, like you know, getting run over on the football field. That happened plenty of times to me when I played football because I was so small. Or like yeah, pushing and sprinting as hard as you can. Like I always just decided to deal with it, and you know, just keep going because I figured it was part of it.
Yeah, and I respect that about you. The other thing I respect about you is I've never seen you get caught up in all the shit talking and kind of publicity stunts that you see a lot
Mm.
in that sport. Now, you could argue that that might have cost you some money,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because
Oh
right,
totally. Yeah.
but also it's just sometimes it's just so stupid. But
Yeah,
you
I
always
agree.
it seems like you come at it from a pretty respectable point of view.
I really try to, you know, it's I look at my peers, you know, and I see that they're doing the same stuff as me. They're sacrificing the same time away from their families. They're dealing with the same, you know, grind of a training camp, which is it's really it sucks sometimes. Just going home sore every day, you know, and like waiting for that day off, you know, like your day off of the week, to get a little recovery in, you know, and having a tough time playing with your kids because you're banged up. So you know, like I respect it, knowing that they're doing the same things that I'm doing. Um, you know, and I'm a ball buster, that's for sure. But like I tease the guys that I like. So, that's what I do with my friends. We buzz balls and buzz chops. So, like if I don't really know somebody, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to really say much, but
Someone told me one time that if your friends aren't busting your chops, then they don't like you.
exactly. So yeah, I've definitely left money on the table because I have chosen not to get into some of that stuff, but it always has felt so manufactured to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we used to do the interviews that they would put up on the big screen before the fights,
Mm-hmm.
and they were literally like waiting for us to say something that
Right.
was aggressive, and it'd be like, "Up, star that one." So
Yep.
then you learn the game, and then you just go in there and you say, "I'm gonna beat my opponent's ass," and then, and then you get in and out of the interview super quick.
Right.
In the beginning, it was like a struggle to get that stuff out of you.
Right.
But yeah, I would listen to those interviews before the fights, and everybody says the same stuff.
Right.
So it never made any sense to me. It wasn't engaging. It wasn't exciting. It was all just the same cookie cutter comments, regurgitated over and over again. And that's not what I fell in love with when I fell in love with the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved watching the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really all I've ever been concerned about.
What's your thoughts on the stuff that happens outside the ring, like in these little tissies these fighters get in with each other when it gets personal?
Uh, it, I think it's silly,
Yeah.
like the recent one, the Masvidal and Covington one. Like I respect Covington as a fighter. I'm not a fan of his shtick. We all know that it's a shtick. And
Yeah,
did
because
he?
it changed at some point.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally did. And it's like, did he go too far, in his trash talk?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever. You say stupid stuff. You say stupid stuff. If it brought more eyeballs to the fight, then Masvidal should be okay with it because it made him more money,
Mm-hmm.
but or gave him more opportunities to make money. But to come up and be a professional fighter and to sucker punch somebody, it's kind of
Yeah,
so it's a
I mean, from my, I have no skin in the game.
yeah.
From a fan perspective, um, it was gross. I thought it was
Yeah.
lame. I thought it was pathetic. And believe me, I'm not a Covington fan per se,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't say he's not a good fighter. I mean, there's just,
Yeah, no, not
I
at
mean,
all.
he's obviously tougher than shit.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I'm not going to like take his corner either. I'm not in a corner. I'm going to
Yeah.
say probably he went too far. Talking about kids and stuff, like it's kind of like when Connor and Khabib were going to fight. And like that stuff got too far. Like Connor's like
Mm.
throwing a chair at the bus and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it
Yep.
was like very, very too much. But I just wish, sometimes I wish, I don't mind it. Like when it's like last night I was watching, who's this new guy? And I'm the worst with names. Is it Kamzat? The new welterweight guy that's gonna
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your guess is good as mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it comes out. Yeah.
Kamzat.
Yeah.
By the way, he looks terrifying.
Yeah.
But he's fighting what's his face?
Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns.
Yep.
And they were doing an interview last night, and their trash talking was totally normal stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna kick your ass,
Yep.
you're gonna leave in an ambulance, and okay, fine. But when you start talking about kids and stuff like that, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not against the rules. You kind of signed up for this, but at the same time, it is kind of gross. But that doesn't mean you can go sucker punch somebody outside of a club.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the talk is gross, and the fact that like he felt the need to say things, and they some of these fighters feel the need to talk about people's children or wives or families or whatever, is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. But you know that it's all part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's gross and it's part of the show, anything that somebody's saying, that it's not legitimate. So it's not like it was a legitimate threat to your children or something like
Yeah,
that or whatever.
exactly.
So,
Mhm.
but like if Masvidal wanted to square up with him, in the middle of the street, that's a completely different thing.
Oh
But
yeah.
to run up and sneak him,
It seems cowardly. And,
yeah, honestly, it does. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I appreciate the way you approach it. Excuse
Thank
me.
you.
But like you said, I mean, if you look at probably the top earners, it's part of the shtick. And I think
It is.
at least I've heard, I don't know much about the history of Colby. Actually, to be honest with you, I didn't really, he's actually from like an hour from where I'm from.
Oh yeah.
My dad used to watch him. My dad's a big Oregon State wrestling fan, and
Okay.
Colby wrestled there. Anyways, long story short, I didn't pay much attention to him, to be honest with you, until he fought Usman.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm kind of like, okay, you're a good fighter, but still, I just don't like your shtick, just like you said. Okay, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about training because, like, what does a training camp look like to those of us who've never experienced that? Like, what do you, diet and the training part?
Well, it kind of it can kind of depend, right? So for me, like, and this is all, the way that I approach it. There are definitely a million different ways that people approach it, right? So like diet wise, I need like about 5 weeks to take off any weight that I'm maybe had put on. I like to show up fight week around 170 pounds to make the 156 pound limit. If I can be a little bit lighter, that's great. The heaviest I've ever shown up is 172.
So you show up how many days before weigh-in at 14 pounds above?
I think 4. Yeah.
So you're 14 pounds, 4 days out. Okay.
Yep.
We'll get to that. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So like for me, I have a family of 6. So it's my wife and I and our 4 kids. So I try to feed my kids well, give them good food, and I know it's difficult, and it adds a lot of time to my day to basically be making dinners from like Whole Foods every day. But we don't have a lot of like processed pre-made stuff in the house. There was a time when the kids were younger, and we had like chicken nuggets and hot dogs and stuff laying around, and they would eat that a lot more. They still do eat that type of stuff. It's not like we're completely devoid of like junk food or any of the processed stuff, but we make a solid effort to consistently just put good food on the plates. So that's kind of like my diet when I'm training is just just pretty clean food, and fortunately I kind of get that like mental note every time I'm eating. It's like, hey, you don't need to eat until you're like embarrassed with yourself. Like, just eat some good food, put some energy back in, and so portion control is pretty easy for me. And then like when it comes to like training, depending on the day, it really depends on what I'm doing. I prefer to train like, from the mid morning to early afternoon. That way I can get it all in and be home with the kids after school, or do what I want to do. If I want
Do
to
you do your camps near you, or do you?
Yes.
Oh, you do. That's a benefit.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of travel. I don't train well. When I'm someplace else.
Right.
There was a time where I used to put a lot more miles on the truck, and I was driving a couple hours a day between practices. But I've really tried to condense things in these last few years, and it's just a lot easier on me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, I try to start my day, earlier and get it done. Even though there is an idea that you should be doing a majority of your training at the same like time, like in your rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
as you will fight. I've never really noticed much difference in that.
Really?
Yeah. Um, there are times where I fought like late at night, or later at night. Um, and it's a little weird, but I don't think it really affected me training at a different schedule. But yeah, like it's hit pads a couple times a week, conditioning a couple times a week, get some lifts in and do some jujitsu and wrestling. And um, it's one of those things we have to balance athleticism and the technical aspects of the various martial arts. So there's a lot of stuff to get in. But I'm a firm believer that that athleticism versus technique, they weigh the same, right? Like having a strength in one area, or one side of that can balance out for a weakness in the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that play out to either end of the spectrum, throughout MMA, right? You look at Hoist and it's like, he is not a athletic, explosive guy, but he had a, vastly superior technical knowledge over
Yes.
far better athletes and far bigger guys. And then you see some athletes these days that they're not super technical. Um, I mean, the heavyweight world champion Ngannou, his striking is not crisp at all. But
He's got power though.
he hits like a truck,
Yeah.
and it's like he's just this specimen of a man.
Yeah.
And he makes up for it, and it makes his opponents react differently because they have to respect it. And he's able to make up for what might not be like super crisp tight striking.
From my ignorant fan point of view, I look similarly upon Usman.
Uh,
Dude, I'm like, dude, if I could choose my body, like if I could like poof change my body, like it'd be, like Usman is a specimen of a human being.
uh,
He's so freaking athletic. Obviously, he's a good fighter. I'm not saying
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but I think there's better fighters. I just think he's so damn athletic and like
Mhm.
and smart about how he fights that
Yeah,
it's just really hard to beat him. He was just
yeah,
blessed with this like, and I look at Nagano the same. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you supposed to do with that?
yeah.
Like,
It's he's scary, dude. And yeah, and Usman is his like fight IQ is you can tell that it's up there. He knows how to fight guys, and it's kind of similar to like a guy like GSP. I mean, George used to fight and like specifically pick a certain position to fight each opponent, and he would get there and he would dominate that position and he'd win the fight. And sometimes it didn't lead to the most exciting fights,
right.
but his technical ability to do that, and I mean he was also a freak of an athlete, but like his ability to find those spots and take advantage of weakness, and use his strengths was really second to none.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your diet from a diet perspective? You just eat clean. Do you do like any intermittent fasting or anything like that?
I can't really say that I like am a intermittent faster, but I don't like to work out with food in my stomach.
Really?
So yeah. So I eat very light until I'm done training. A lot of times I'll start my day with just like a basic like basic carb shake, like a Vitargo,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like sucralose or whatever the heck it is, just to give you a little bit of a buzz,
Mm-hmm.
um, and some coffee, and that's about it. And then yeah, I'll get my training in, and then like for me, lunch is usually some leftovers from the night before,
Mm-hmm.
basic protein and whatever we had. But yeah, like I'm not strict on any of that stuff. I believe that as long as we moderate what we take in, if we can control that, we can control the results. So I try to, yeah, just not have a ton of food in my stomach. Like even a small meal will mess me up. I'll just be burping it up, and it's no fun for me. And it's probably no fun for my training partners either.
Do you drink alcohol?
Occasionally, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's more socially than anything. Like
Yeah.
I've definitely, there was a time when I was homebrewing a lot, and it's not like I be getting banged up or anything like that, but I'd have a beer or two with dinner a couple nights a week, and I've cut way back from that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my downfall, man. Like
Yeah,
I crave a beer at night, but
yeah,
puts the donut around my midsection.
yeah, yeah.
It's hard to stay in shape. That's why I asked you about it. Like, so when you're in training camp though, like you keep shit like that out of your diet. You're eating clean. You're working out. You're probably not going out to the bars.
No, yeah,
Nights.
no. I've never been like going out to the bars kind of guy.
Except for when you go karaoke singing.
Well, yeah, you need it sometimes. But like it's that discipline thing, right? Like for the last, like, I don't know, year and a half or so, like, yeah, I won't have a beer during training camp, or a drink. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I'd really like, have a glass of wine at dinner with my wife. But and the way that I look at it is that I can do it. And because I can do it, and I don't need to do it, then I don't have to do it.
You're testing yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, I feel better because I chose not to, because knowing that I could have it. Where if I told myself like, well, I'm not allowed to have it, then I'd probably feel a little bit more pressure to have a beer or a glass of wine. But with that discipline comes freedom. So it's yeah, it's not an issue for me to not, to put the beers away, and not have any.
Well, I'm taking inspiration from you right now. But when did you are a proponent of eating wild game, which I love.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, shameless plug, you have a book coming out, I think.
I do. Yes. Yes.
Want to tell us a little bit about that?
So I've got a cookbook coming out very soon. April 16th is when it will be shipping. It is called the Fighters Cookbook. Can be found at the fighterscookbook.com. It's kind of my goal with it is to kind of inspire people, right? So not all the recipes are going to be wild game, but a majority are, and the reason is because I like hunting and I love wild game, and venison and pheasant and bear. They're some of my favorite things to cook, and I like having the control. And if I can inspire people to take a look at their food and to take a little control in where their food comes from and have a hand in it, I feel like they're going to make better choices, because it's a shame that in this country we are we're trading convenience. We're to get convenience, we're trading our health. Like a lot of the crap food that we eat, and I fall for it. Like when I'm traveling, it's hard for me to.
You have to really go out of your way to eat good.
Yeah, you do,
Yeah.
you do, and and a lot of times that's where I'll make that, like, okay, I just need something quick, and then I regret it. I don't feel the same way. I don't feel, I don't feel as good as when I'm eating, good food. And, we try to get a majority of our meat, from local farmers as well. And, my goal has always been to, like, provide our protein. If I could, shoot an elk and a couple deer a year, it's like, man, we could have all the meat we need for a year. But I haven't gotten an elk yet, so
Well, that's
not there.
I'm here to help.
Yeah,
you got to come. You got to come out. You got to come. I'm serious, man.
All right.
You have an open invite. I'll help you. I love taking people elk hunting that haven't been.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I can show you how frustrating it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been twice, and I've had them very close. But never
Where did you
been
go?
able to take a shot. Colorado.
With did you go with Dudley or?
No. So I did over the counter.
Oh, wow.
It was like center of the state and a little bit west. I forget the name of the
Eagle?
No. What the heck? It might come back to me while we're talking.
In the over the counter area.
Yeah. So, I understand that the success rate was super low, but yeah, it's amazing to get out there, to be an Easterner, and to hear a bugle it's a life-changing moment, like I was able to call one in the first year. I had a 6x6 come ripping down, and just, he never gave me a shot at about 42 yards, came across, and then a little spike came a lot closer. And then I actually like bugled one in on like the second to last day, or the last day. And I didn't really know what to do. So like I heard him, he was come ripping up the side of the mountain towards me. And I was like, well, he's coming, so get him even more pissed and bugle again. And I did.
Yeah.
He bugled back. And then I went to bugle a third time, and I was so nervous that I messed it up, and it sounded like shit. And he just turned around and ran the other direction. And I was so heartbroken. But yeah, like it. I don't know where we're on food, but yeah, elk hunting is awesome. I love elk hunting. I need to shoot one.
Well, it is a clean way to eat, that's for sure, and it feels so good. I'm with you, man. I'm getting to the point where when I travel, I feel like shit for like 3 days after I get back.
Yeah.
And I used to love traveling, and it's not like I like traveling with my wife, my kids, and stuff like that. That's different. But when I go on like a business trip, like you rush, you're like, ah, shit, I'm just gonna grab like a burger at Dairy Queen.
Yep.
And then, oh, I had 3 beers tonight, and then I got to go back out tonight. You don't. I sleep like shit in hotel rooms.
Yep.
I'm just to the point now, and I know it sounds like old and boring, but like when I'm at home for a long period of time and I'm on my routine, I'm working out every day, I'm drinking a lot of water, I'm sleeping good, I'm seeing my family, like I'm getting filled. I feel great.
Yeah.
And it just fucks it up if you go somewhere.
It does.
So that's cool. That's cool. You can do your camp, because most people travel, don't they? Just so they get out distractions.
There are definitely a few. I don't know how many do that these days. To be perfectly honest, but there are some definitely a few higher profile guys that do that. I just wouldn't want to be away. Like there's enough BS and drama at home, right? But like it's still part of it. Like I still want to experience it. I don't want to miss those things with my kids. I don't want to I feel better at home. I feel better sleeping in my own bed. I feel better, eating food that I prefer. So
it's lonely too, man. Like, especially you have 4 kids, I have 3.
Yep.
When you're away from them, there's no way that it's not lonely, even with your buddies. Like after a few days with your buddies, you're like, all right, I've seen enough of these bastards. I want to go home and play with the kids. You have Lyme's disease.
Yeah. So hopefully, like, I don't know let's see, I don't know how successful I was in beating it. It's one of those things that it might show back up in my life, and it might be because it's still in my body, or it might be because I get bit by another tick. Who the hell knows? But there are a lot of people that have had Lyme disease untreated for as long as I had, that end up getting a second bout of it. And I haven't gotten that yet, knock on wood. So hopefully I don't have Lyme disease anymore, but I did.
I thought it was something that doesn't go away. Is that not true?
It's one of those things that, it can come back, but some people,
and you got it from are lucky in it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Deer hunting or something, or
I have no idea. Honestly, I found more ticks on me gardening than ever in the woods. And it was like, I did not find the tick on me. I did not get a bullseye rash. So it took a little while, even after being diagnosed, it took a while for me to figure out like when I was bit. And I'm pretty certain that it was like end of May of 2013. So it wasn't deer season. I had been turkey hunting. So it might have been that, or it might have been, getting the garden in. So who really knows? But yeah, like I said, the tick never found it. And that's one of those misconceptions that has been around for ages, is that like the tick has to be on you for a certain amount of time and this and that. If it regurgitates into you, like if it doesn't like your shampoo or your soap and decides it wants off, and it throws up into you, it can give you Lyme disease. So like
That's how it works?
yeah. So as long as it gets into, where essentially it's getting in like capillary, right? Then it can give it to you. It doesn't have a stopwatch, where it's
Right.
like, hey, I've been on here for 24 hours or,
Right.
3 days is what it was when I was a kid. So yeah, during that period of time, in 13, I had like some severe nausea, like basically like morning sickness. Like drinking my coffee, if I got a good sniff of my coffee as I was taking a sip, I'd gag. Taking the garbage out. Now granted, I had 2 kids in diapers at the time, so it was bad enough, but I'd be like dry heaving the whole way, bringing the garbage down the driveway. And then I got a series of migraines over the course of a few days, and I don't really get headaches to begin with, let alone migraines. So, I went to an ENT and a neurologist at the time, and got checked out, and they weren't able to find anything. They actually tested me for Lyme during that period, but I'm one of the about 50% of people that have Lyme, and I have never tested positive. So kind of got, put off, like we're just kind of waiting specifically for the headaches to come back. And they never did. And in probably about 2015, early 2015, it's when like joint pain and the neuropathy really started to get me. Particularly my knees started to get bad, and I could be in the middle of a workout, and I'd go to stand up, and I'd have to put my hands on my knees and stand up and be grunting and groaning like an old man. I got to the point later in the year where I was like, if I was going up the stairs, I'd be grabbing onto the handrail and pulling myself up. And going downstairs, for whatever reason, I just started going downstairs sideways because it was easier on my joints. And like, I never made the decision to do it. I just started doing it, and then like kind of caught myself one day, like, what the hell are you doing? I was getting, positional neuropathy. If I sat on the floor or like sat on anything that was, uncomfortable, like, or a bleacher or anything like that, my legs would go numb. And it was, I have a neck injury that I've been dealing with for over a decade now. So like, I thought the numbness was from that, and I thought that the joint pain was from just being an athlete, and my whole life. So I kind of just let it go. And then in early 2016, I was talking to my doctor before my fight in March, and explaining to him some of the symptoms, and I was also dealing with some pretty severe brain fog at the time.
Is that one? That's a symptom, a normal
Yeah,
symptom?
yeah. Like I'd go into a room and just like, not even just forget what I went in there for. I'd almost get lost. Like I'd get overwhelmed with like, oh, I'm going to, to clean up my workshop. And like, I would just kind of stand there for a bit and not get anything done, not do anything, and just not even be on my phone. Like not even get lost in social media. I would just go down there and just be like looking around for a bit. And yeah, it was tough. But yeah, talking to him, telling him everything, he's like, I think you've got Lyme. Let's run some tests. And so we did, and I was actually out for that fight at UFC 196, and he called me up when I was out in Vegas, and again, I tested negative, but given some of the other tests that we had run, it showed that I had an active infection. So he was confident that that it was Lyme disease. So we when I got home, I got on some antibiotics, some doxycycline, and he told me that if it was Lyme, I would notice a difference pretty quickly. And I really did. The brain fog.
Why would antibiotics help it? I don't
So
understand.
it's a bacteria.
Lyme's disease. Okay,
Yep.
I didn't know that it was a bacterial. Then why wouldn't it kill it all the way?
Because it's a very, very stubborn bacteria, and apparently it moves pretty quickly through your bloodstream. So it actually can like outrun your fighter T cells, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier as well. So that's why you get some of the neurological issues. So it's a stubborn little thing, and they call it the great imitator because it presents differently in just about everybody. So I was on doxycycline for like 6 months. I was planning on, before I was diagnosed, I was planning on getting through UFC 196 so that I could retire at UFC 200. And then I was diagnosed, and I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. Let's see if I can get this back. And I was able to kind of turn around pretty quickly there and feel way better. The joint pain and the neuropathy took a little bit. Kind of the focus issues they actually came back pretty quickly, or went away pretty quickly rather. But yeah, it was I was on Doxy for about 6 months, that first stint, and I was feeling way better from the beginning to the end. I felt like a new man. In the grand scheme of things, like if I was at a 2 beforehand, I was probably still only at like a 4.5. But it felt like I was at an 11. Having lived,
such a drastic improvement.
Yeah. So I'd asked my doc, I was like, hey, can I get off of this? Because doxycycline, it messes with your gut pretty bad. I ended up losing roughly 15 pounds of muscle in 2016. Because I was working out all the time. I was in the gym from, I was barely in the gym before that March fight, but then I was able to get back in. I was training a lot. I was teaching a lot. And then I was on the doxycycline, which makes you go to the bathroom a lot. So, the muscle mass ended up I couldn't keep up, couldn't take in enough protein to keep the mass on. So, I used to walk around pushing 190, and now it's like, I'm letting myself go if I get to 175. I went off the doxycycline for a few weeks leading up to my fight at UFC 205, and it was like about 7 weeks or so that I was off of it, and then I started to feel like they were coming back a little bit. I got through that fight, and then it was like getting hit by a train, and it was they kicked my butt. And then I had some issues, like, so with doxycycline, you're not supposed to take anything else like 2 hours before or 2 hours after. It's what they recommend because of absorption issues. And given that I don't like to train with food in my stomach, it was hard for me to kind of like pace out all these pills throughout the day. So I ended up just saying screw it and just jamming everything at the same time. And then I guess through consistency, that kind of helped me. But 2017, early 2017 was still a little bit of a struggle. It like I said, it came back and it kicked my butt pretty hard. But once I got on my rhythm, it started to have an effect, and probably in maybe March or so of 2018 is when I really started to feel like I could perform as an athlete again and really push myself. Because for a while I wasn't able to do like anaerobic workouts, either sprint workouts or lifting and stuff like that. I think because my nervous system was so like fatigued that if I did like a basic workout, a little bench press or something like that, I'd be just destroyed. Or if I did a couple sprints, I'd be banged up for days. So it was in early 2018 that I felt like I kind of got over it. And, you know, my doc we tried to do some of the other therapies, the other antibiotics. There's an intermuscular shot you can do. There's actually a PICC line that you could try to do, and they're effective. It's just that insurance is a pain in the butt about it. They didn't want to fork over the dough for it. So we stuck with the doxy, and my doc had said that he saw some research that if you stay with it for like 2 years, there's a good chance of positive results. And yeah, so I stuck with it as long as I could.
Oh man.
And yeah, I had a bout of the stomach flu New Year's Eve at the end of 2018, and you know, I was going through the house and it caught me New Year's Eve, and I rang in the New Year puking, and it was so bad.
I've rang in the New Year puking before too.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have. I wasn't drinking. It was one of those rough ones where, like, to this day I can't really eat I made this pasta that we would eat it like once a week. Super basic, just tomatoes, garlic, basil, mozzarella cheese, and pasta, right? A little caprese, and I can't eat it. I can't eat it anymore. It's been like, you know, a couple of years now. I have, like, you know, post-traumatic stress from puking so hard. But yeah, that was the last time that I took doxy. Was that day. Yeah, since then I've been able to keep it at bay. You know, just.
So you haven't had any symptoms since then?
Nope. No. You know, like yeah, none of the telltale stuff has come back. You know, like I had some twitching, and of course I get that occasionally, you know, and it's like, well, is this Lyme disease, or is this, you know, just, you know, my nerve being an asshole? And I think it's just basic stuff, you know, just normal nonsense.
So, do you think your overall your diet, your physical health, obviously helped with the process? Probably.
Yes, 100%. You know, like when I was in rough shape in early 16, late 15, early 16, it was hard for me to train, but I still did. You know, and I ended up getting to the point where I avoided like live training because it was too much. So I would hop on the treadmill and go for a jog and stuff like that. And it's a really weird, it's a super smart fucking little bug. Like it makes you want to live a sedentary life. Is what it does, because the better your body is at moving oxygen, the more oxygen your blood can carry, the better you're going to fight it. And there's even on the bacteria, there's a toxin. And if you kill too much of the bacteria at the same time, at one time, you kind of get poisoned by this toxin. They call it the Herxheimer reaction. So then it makes you stop the thing that you're doing that's doing good and killing it. So you have to do it slowly. It's a marathon to get through it. But yeah, like being in shape and continuing to work out, and then really changing my diet, and then just time are like the biggest things, you know. It's Lyme is an inflammatory disease. So they recommend like a paleo style diet. You know, I've never been a fan of like those super strict things, because then you box yourself in and you feel like you feel like you're doing something. You feel like you have to do something. And I think that's why a lot of these diets end up failing, is because they are so strict.
Right.
Where, you know, we changed our diet. We make a very concerted effort to, not eat processed junk, and just feed ourselves with good food, and food that we can have some control over as well. And I really feel like that's one of the big things that helped me get through it.
Wouldn't surprise me, man. I
No.
mean, if your body's struggling with something, obviously a healthier body is going to fight off things than a non-healthy body.
Yeah.
And this cookbook is mostly wild game, but also some other stuff. But it's really healthy. What made you want to do a cookbook?
I
see you cooking all the time on your Traeger.
Yeah. Like food has always been it's always been big, a big part of my life. Like growing up, like one of the things that my parents did is we always had dinner together. No matter if there's wrestling practice, football, baseball, it didn't matter. We ate at different times throughout the night, and there was always that effort to sit down with one another and eat. And but through the years, my parents became better cooks, and then when my siblings and I started to get into cooking and kind of getting off on our own, like we were all kind of inspired by it. And yeah, it's just a huge part of who I am. And like I enjoy sharing. I enjoy the social aspects of like preparing food, like with people and for people, and then eating it with them. Like it's I need it. So a cookbook doesn't exactly fall into that just yet, like it's kind of like dipping my toe into the water of it. And it's also trying to be a little bit entrepreneurial, and using this thing that I've this career that I've put together. But yeah, like I just like food, and I can't cook for everybody. So if I could share some of the recipes, and hopefully inspire some people to, like, just clean up their pantry a little bit, clean up the fridge a little bit, and take a little more time in the prep of their food to try to eat like real food, then that's awesome. That's going to be enough.
Yeah, well, it's admirable, man. Like, I think it's really inspiring your life. I think it's
Thank you.
There's so many things I want to talk to you about. I think we're going to have to do this again, because I think you've created a really cool life, and I think there's a lot of people that are inspired by that. The fighting is obviously amazing, but then diving into being an author, and who knows, we could see a Jim Miller cook show. I've always thought you should get into comedy. I think you should, you do a stand-up routine.
I think the cook show and the comedy go together. We just mash them up.
Let's do it, dude. I'll be your producer.
All right.
No, you don't want me as your producer. No, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I really mean that. You should come out here and come on an elk hunt.
All right.
And have you signed a contract for July?
No, not yet.
Okay. But you're hoping to do that.
Yeah. I've already been talking to Sean Shelby, the matchmaker. So
yeah.
I think we got it.
Yeah. Good. Well, if that match is made and you sign that contract, I'm going to be there, and I want to watch it, because that was one of the coolest experiences in sports I've ever had, is being in that auditorium. God. So where can people find the book? Say the website again.
The FightersCookbook.com. It's like it's funny, right? It's like stupid and silly, But it's also, I used food to kind of fight back, time and Lyme disease and so yes, it's the fighterscookbook.com.
I love it, man. Congratulations. And also your Instagram's like Jim Miller something.
_155. Yep.
Yeah, there's probably a few Jim Millers out there.
Yeah.
And you were just on Rogan.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Congrats, man. How did that go?
Thank you. It was good. We got into a bunch of weird shit. we talked about Lyme and fighting and stuff like that. But yeah, we got into some kooky stuff and
I bet. Well, congratulations on all your success. Let's do this again.
All right.
And yeah, man.
All right, bud.
Cheers.
Have a good one.